I wonder why the British were, got such a bad name abroad. If you think of it, it was spread by the Navy. What was the Navy peopled by? Well, the officers were from the upper class, of course. Management always is, in some sense, or at least obedient to the upper class. But the men, the bulk of the people, well, they were press-ganged. I mean, you didn't want to serve in the Royal Navy. I mean, goodness gracious, that's a hard life and possibly a death sentence, you know? And, what did we do with prisoners? Well, we put them in the Navy. It's a bit like Foreign Legion, wasn't it? You could always escape to the Foreign Legion and get your freedom, even though you're a criminal otherwise, you know? They knew you were a criminal. That's why you'd come to the Foreign Legion. It's the same with the Navy. And of course, the press gang would go around the pubs and so on and collect men and force them to serve in the Navy. End of story. And you take able men from the prisons too, of course. And those that were less able and you didn't want in the Navy, well, took them to Van Diemen's Land, which I think was Australia, wasn't it? Not New Zealand. Yeah. Yep. Australia. And so, who was in the British Army? What were the bulk of the soldiers? Oh, Welsh and Irish, weren't they? And any Englishman that couldn't get a job on the land, I guess. Yeah. And the officers? Well, it was hardly the choice pick of the fruits, was it, to be an officer thousands of miles, months and months from home, for years and years, with all the diseases you can get when you're in a foreign country, be it Africa or India or not good, not good. Interestingly, those that fled to America were very often European and not particularly English, persecuted religious people. And they were a different sort, weren't they? But the unemployed and the desperate anywhere, I mean, the Irish potato famine meant those that could escape. Many of them went to North America, didn't they? Yeah. So the British that were abroad were not necessarily the most treasured of society. The culture that dominated the upper class was very much in England. So we get to the time of, much more recent period of colonising New Zealand, and Queen Victoria says, no, these are my people. Stolen the land still, but under the illusion that in some sense she was their queen and they have rights, and we have the Treaty of Waitangi and so on. We have it, but we're there by agreement. Of course they want me as their queen. Who else would they want? There's someone done a bit of study, I think, on that. Females make much better monarchs than males. And the great English queens, well, great in a worldly sense probably, but, the Elizabeths, outstanding monarchs, both Elizabeth I and Elizabeth II. I don't mean saints, but, outstanding in some way or other. And they're not got the mark of being ruthless. you know. Prime ministers, you know, again, they've been outstanding. Doesn't mean we've agreed with them, of course. But, yes. I'm not sure about that particular thesis, but it's interesting, isn't it? Do they make better leaders? Depends what you want to be led in. If you're facing a war, perhaps a Scythian king might be the best solution. Scythian type the king, I mean, you know, yes. Scythians are probably your enemy, but running a state is very much the world, and it's expediency that rules. And so it is too with us as children. If we're at school, it's best to do what the school requires. If you've got problems with that, tell mum and dad. If they think it's feasible to do something about it, they will. If they don't, they won't. But they have your welfare in mind, and that's what counts. So God is not the schoolmaster or the king, the monarch. Salvation Army got it wrong, right? Christian religion got it wrong. They see him as king. Well, they see him as what they understand to be a perfect king, of course, not a worldly king. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.